Hello everyone, welcome to a video on Keen. In this video, we will talk about the latest 1.4 update and how you can download or rather purchase, download and install it on your machine. So to get right into it, how do you find Keen would be to search for get Bootstrap, go to getbootstrap.com, go to their themes, and then just scroll down just a little bit and you'll see, or you'll be able to find Keen in one of the popular themes of the week. And once you've click on it, and once you've done your live or previews and you feel that Keen is the product that you wish to use, you can go ahead and add to cart and purchase it. Once you've purchased Keen, you'll be given a download link where you can download our package, our Keen zip file. And once you've downloaded it, it will look something like this. So what you do next is to just extract it. And once it's done extracting, let's have a quick browse through on our new file structure. If you're used to Keen, this may look a little bit different, but moving forward from 1.4 and above, this is how we are going to progress on with our new file structure. So once you're into it, once you get into Keen, the first three folders will be the design, docs, and theme. The design and docs are pretty self-explanatory. Design is where we keep all the sketch and PSD files. The docs is our documentation, which we will use to refer when we want to install Keen shortly within this video. And in the theme, we have two packages, the classic and default. The default is the default package is basically the main package that we recommend you guys to use because it uses the latest web development techniques such as task automation that uses gulp, and it also uses npm and yarn to manage our packages within the entire theme. So if you look into classic, we just have to quick browse through. We have all our assets within the assets folder, and each demo will have its own HTML files. Demo 1 will have all our components and elements and layouts, or not layout, and custom pages. But in other demos, we will only have the layout files basically. And what this does is, because you'll be sharing components between every single demo, we only need the layout settings or the layout configuration, and this is how it's set up. In the default demo, in the default package, you will have a similar structure where you have a source folder and a tools folder. This is where we keep our build tools, which is our gulp and our build.json. And in this source folder, we have again a similar layout, but its difference from the classics is simply because the files within the source folder, they are mainly uncompiled or unbuilt HTML source files, and they are not complete demo files. How do you do that? How do you get a complete demo file up and running? Is you need to run our gulp build to build the demos. So how to do that is similar with our previous versions. You just have to go to our default package. Let's just go back to our root and then go to themes, go to our default package, and then go to tools. And what you do here is you need to open up the command line or the command prompt. And before we do that, maybe what we can do is we can have a look at our docs, and we go to our index, and from our documentation you can go to our docs folder. In the main documentation, you can actually just view our demos, like all the demos that we have and all the demos that are coming soon. We plan to expand this this theme, or Keen will definitely expand to include a lot more demos. We have 6 so far, and we have 3 more up and coming. And once all 9 demos are up, there'll be definitely more demos coming soon. So keep an eye on that. So let's go ahead to our documentation. And once you click on the docs, the first thing you'll see is our quick start step by step. So in here, you just have to follow each step to install Keen and get all the demos running properly by building it. So let's just quickly follow the steps. The first step is to basically just visit the marketplace and download it, purchase and download it, which in this example we already have done that. The second is to download Node. Now Node Node.js rather, is a open source cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment that executes JavaScript code outside of the browser. It is required within Keen simply because it needs to be there for Keen to run its build tools. And what we mean by that, by build tools, is I will explain to you shortly. But if you do not have Node already installed in your computer, what you need to do is download and install it. So if you're a Windows user, just install Windows. If you're Mac, install Mac. And once you're done, we go to the next step of documentation, which is the main source of everything within Keen. So next up is we need to install, we need to navigate to our tools folder, which we already have right here. Let's go to theme, default, tools. So this is the tools folder. And then we need to install 3 things first, which is our npm, yarn, and gulp. Now, yarn and npm are basically package managers that automates the process of installing and upgrading third-party plugins. Basically including libraries such as Bootstrap or Font Awesome or any other third-party plugins that is required within Keen. So we will definitely need to have these 2 installed. So let's go ahead and do that. So in order to run commands in your command line or a command prompt or a terminal, for Macs you need to open up the terminal and then navigate to the tools folder. For Windows, all you have to do is just type in cmd in the address line, and this pops up. So what we need to do is we just need to copy this and put it into our command prompt and enter. If you do not already have npm or npm yarn or gulp pre-installed before this tutorial, this process may take a lot longer than what you see here. It's because that I already have all this I already have like npm, yarn, and gulp already installed in my machine, and therefore what I'm doing now is I'm just updating npm, yarn, and gulp to the latest version. And if you already have all three of these assets, or not assets, all three of these package managers, you don't need to. It's recommended that you also run it to update your package managers. So now I'm installing Gulp. And once that's done, we need to run yarn. Now Gulp is not exactly a package manager. Gulp is a cross-platform streaming task runner that lets you guys to automate a lot of our development tasks, such as compiling Sass, basically from Sass to CSS, and then minifying CSS and JS, and then bundling them up into a single file, which then finally gets deployed into your assets folder. The assets folder can be located in multiple locations, which is defined by the build.json. So quickly, what the build.json does is basically Keen's primary build tool. So if you look at our build.json, what it has here is we have our config and we have our build. In our config, we will specify which demo we're going to build, whether you want to turn on a debug mode or not, and right down here we are setting the paths and also the destination of where the assets is going to be compiled and deployed to. We will get into this in more detail in our next video when we show you guys how you can start your very first project using Keen's latest file structure. So let's go back to what we've been doing. Our gulp is done, so the next step we need to do is to run yarn. Now, running yarn, as we mentioned, yarn is a package manager. Therefore, what we're doing here is, if you can see, well, it's a bit too fast now, but you see it's actually installed in a Bootstrap Max Select, Bootstrap Switch, Bootstrap Time Picker, and stuff like that. These are all third-party vendor plugins that is being used within Keen. This process may take a while because it is a fresh install. So once it's done, I'll basically cut this video here, and then once it's done, we'll resume discussing it. One thing that we have to mention before we get into building our demos or building Keen is all these steps here is only required to be followed when you're developing. Means like once you deploy your project into your production server, which is like a live server, which let's say is live and is ready to go, you do not need to run npm yarn gulp and stuff like this in your production server. You just need your files, your HTML, your CSS, or basically your HTML and your assets folder. And once you have those two up and running in your production server, you do not need to have npm install, or yarn install, or even run gulp build on your production server. You don't need to do that. This is only meant for development. So let's see if it's almost ready. Okay, our yarn is done. So basically all our dependencies have been installed. Next, what we need to do is we need to run gulp build to build Keen. So let's go ahead and do that. As we're doing that, perhaps we can have a look at our default theme. And yeah, it's building all our demos basically now. Alright, so it's done. After you've run gulp build to build all of Keen's demos, what we need to explain to you is similar with our source folder and even in our classic is demo 1 is where all our components and elements are usually placed. And if you go to demo 2 or 3, these only host the layout files or layouts configurations or layout templates, because all the content parts like the plugins, the components, or the elements are globally available throughout every single demo. So we do not want to repeat the global elements to not bloat your machine, basically. At the moment, it's still manageable simply because we only have 6 demos, but we are looking to a point where we might have maybe 30 or 40 or 50 demos, and when we duplicate the global configure or global elements or components throughout all demos, then the idea behind it, or to keep keen, efficient, and optimized, is just out the window. So we are doing it this way. All demos, all elements, all global elements and common components are seated or placed within demo 1, and then the other demos are basically our layout configuration or layout templates. So you can just go ahead and have a look into our index 1, and you can see this is our demo 1, and let's look at our demo 2. As you can see, that is a different layout. Maybe we can look at demo 3 to have a more drastic comparison. So you can see it's a completely different layout. Whoops, let's go back here. It's completely different layout from our demo 1 and demo 2, but all these little widgets here are components that are presetted globally, or basically saved globally, which are shared throughout every single demo. So you could use any layout you want from Keen for your project, and every component or element or plugin within Keen will be 100% compatible from one demo or one layout to another. Okay, next is we would like to mention that when you create your project, right? When you create a project, we highly recommend that you keep the theme, like the default theme or default package, close to your project. The reason for that is it's to assist you so that you can compile the changes within both destinations, which is the theme source, either default or classic, and your actual project. And because the assets folder can be, or the assets can be compiled or configured via the build.json, the build tool, it's good to have that file or that structure close to your project. Therefore, you do not need to navigate back and forth between Keen and your project too much. We will explain this, or I will explain this in a lot more detail in the next video. So keep an eye on that as well. Lastly, we would like to mention is we have a few comments from our customers or you guys saying that you guys are asking if you could use your own build tasks to compile Keen. We highly do not recommend you do that, simply because since our theme file structure is very specific and robust, and in order for you guys to use the theme without any issues or without any conflicts with your build tasks, we do not recommend that you use your own build task, because if you do use a build task, there may be instances or issues where when you run your task, it doesn't fully compile Keen like how it's supposed to be compiled, and there'll be like missing files here and there, or maybe it's compiled in different locations, which breaks your project. And then going through the whole debugging process is going to be a nightmare. So we highly recommend that you guys do not use your own build task to, or basically do not integrate Keen's build task into your Webpack, or just use, we highly suggest that you just use Keen's default build tool to compile and run Keen. Okay, so now that we have our Keen installed, so the other steps within our quick step or quick start is mainly optional, where you can use our gulp API URL, and what that does is it's an optional task for our demo. You don't really need to do any of this actually, but if you want to load the demo and you want to grab the data from our website or our server KeenThemes.com, then you run the API URL to grab it. And then also you can gup localhost to start a localhost server. However, if you already have other localhost alternatives such as WAMP or XAMPP, then you don't need to do this as well. It's all optional. Gup watch is similar to what if you basically gup watch is it just watches the entire SAS folder within Keen, which is if you go into our source and go to our assets, our SAS folder is located here, and all our SAS files will be parked under the SAS root. So what it does is, what Gulp Watch does is, it just watches all the SAS, and whenever you do a change or when you save a change, it just automatically runs the Gulp build command. And the next is Gulp. So we have two types of Gulps watch, which is Gulp Watch SAS and Gulp Watch JS. Gulp Watch basically watch the entire thing, SAS and JS, and if you just want to watch SAS, you just watch SAS, and JS, just watch JS. And that's pretty much it. We also highly recommend that you go through our documentation, because we have basically a very detailed explanation, like what is a default package, what is our classic package, and what's the difference between the two, and also what our build tools do, like what are the configurations and what each field in our config file does, and a lot of other cool stuff, like how we can use our layout builder, and even some references and whatnot. Okay, so that's it for installing Keen. It's pretty straightforward and quick. All you need to do is just follow our quick start menu, and that's it. And you will have Keen up and running in pretty much in no time. So our next video will be discussing on how you can start your very first project with Keen as a companion. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so that when we release that video, you get an update. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and our other social media platforms. The links are in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.